now that America and Iran is having this war going on. Let me explain you why China and Russia would be probably supporting Iran and what is their concern if America takes over Iran and the new regime which is in ally with US comes in Iran.
Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirms that China and Russia are supporting Iran politically and otherwise, strengthening Tehran's position against ongoing US and Israeli operations.
They are supporting us politically and otherwise. I'm not going to give the details of our cooperation with other countries right in the middle of the war.
Araghchi also highlights that military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not a secret. Historic defense coordination continues, providing Tehran with a robust strategic buffer and enhanced readiness for any escalation.
Well, military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not a secret. We have worked with each other in the past, and that has continued and will continue, I guess.
While operational details remain undisclosed, Iran's alliances offer both diplomatic leverage and deterrence. Moscow and Beijing remain vocal supporters on the global stage, advocating for Iran in multilateral forums.
Iran is an important ally of China and Russia. If you see before the Russia-Ukraine war, the major imports, like almost 40% of the natural gas imports to Europe was from Russia. So whatever natural gas, even the oil which is produced in Russia, it is not transported through vehicles because it is very long way to Europe. So it is through various pipelines, underwater, underground, huge pipelines. So the major pipelines then was Nord Stream 1, Yamal Europe and Turk Stream pipelines. So these are the major three pipelines which used to supply natural gas from Russia to Europe. But because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because of the huge US sanctions, Russia had cut the oil supply and even then NG supply to all the European nations by about 80%. Mind you, 80%. This temporarily had led to increase in the oil prices because oil supply cut means the demand increases, the supply is cut, so obviously the oil prices increases, and if the oil and gas prices increases, then the inflation of those countries increases. That is what was happened after Russia-Ukraine war in US and even in European countries, that their cost of gas has become so high, almost 3 times, that the inflation was at its peak at that time. Still they are going through high inflationary period. But if you see, the important fact here is that Iran is having the second largest NG reserve and they are having around 34 trillion meter cube of oil, which is 16% of the global reserve, which is too huge. And if after the US-Iran war, a Western puppet takes over the Iranian regime, then they will supply this excess natural gas and oil to the European nations through Turkey. And this will lead to the downfall of Russia, wherein they will not have any negotiation power on the supply of this energy to the European countries. So this is what Russia fears if US takes over Iran. Another interesting fact is that if you see the position of Iran on the map, it is southern part of Russia. So if a US puppet takes over Iran, then already the neighboring countries of Iran, which is like Kuwait, Bahrain, the Gulf of Persia, that is then Syria, all these countries are pure allies of US and they are having various camps of US in these countries. So if Iran is taken over by USA, then ease of entering Russia and the security will be under threat in Russia. And also through Iran, the major trade with the Central Asia also happens. So if this route is cleared for US, then the trades with Central Asia may also be impacted for Russia and their trade volumes can go down. So this is the threat which Russia has if US takes over Iran. Now let's talk about China. Why China fears if a US puppet takes over Iran? The interesting fact here is that China is the largest consumer of Iranian oil. Almost 90% of Iranian oil is imported by China. And then the trade also doesn't happen in US dollar. It happens in Chinese yuan. So this is also a strategic association of China with Iran for de-dollarization and pushing yuan as a global currency for trades. And another threat which China is having is that there is something called Strait of Malacca. This is a small sea route which lies in between Malaysia, Indonesia and Singapore. So this is the major trade route through which China does almost 80% of its trade with European countries and other countries. So if this route is choked by US and its allies, then China will lose its entire trading volume and exports to other countries. So China has been building something called the Belt and Road Initiative, wherein he is building a long road transport route to Europe through Iran.
共建“一带一路”，为世界经济增长开辟了新空间。
China's new Silk Road has been touted as one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects ever conceived, one that will dramatically change the landscape of global trade.
Suspicions abound that China does not care about development but about increasing its global influence.
China peddles corrupt infrastructure deals in exchange for political influence.
It's the bigger strategic benefits. As China's dollars continue to flow, as China's concrete continues to pour, China's influence continues to increase.
So if Iran is taken over, then China will lose the entire project, and as we speak, he has spent almost $1.3 trillion for this Belt and Road Initiative. So China is so much worried if a US puppet comes in Iran, then he will lose the entire control over this Belt and Road Initiative. So folks, I think you are clear why Russia and China would be so concerned if Iran is taken over, and they silently fund Iran with weapons and fundings so that Iran stands the ground against US and they will not be taken over. Let us see what happens going forward. If China and Russia will support Iran for this war is yet to be seen. See you next video. Till then, happy investing.